It's time for Market Explainer, your number one business news podcast. Hosted by Danny and the big man. And it starts right now.
Well, folks, I want to tell you about the sponsor for this next segment. It's his company, bigmangear.com. You can go to bigmangear.com and get a graphic tee designed by yours truly, the big man. Go to bigmangear.com. That is delivered to you by Amazon Prime. That will take you to the Amazon Prime store, and you can get your t-shirt from there, personally packed by Jeff Bezos.
I ain't printing nothing. That's all I'm saying.
That's right. So this next story, exciting. My very good friend Pat McAfee, him and I are very close. Known him since high school.
You went to high school in Plum,
Indiana?
No, it's Pennsylvania. Plum,
That's
Pennsylvania.
right. That's what I said. Yeah.
That's what you said. Plum, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So all right, go ahead.
Plum City Fighters, man. You know, the plumbers. So Pat McAfee, I'm not a football guy at all.
I think they're the Stallions, not the Plumbers. But go ahead.
Well, you know, I thought we were called. Listen, man, you don't know this because you didn't go to school there, but we always referred to ourselves as the Plumbers. All right,
go ahead.
You wouldn't know that because you're not from.
I'm not from Plum, Pennsylvania. That is very true.
But I am. So, you know, I hit up one of my buddies and I said, "Hey, man, just school me really quick." And he's like, "Listen, Pat McAfee was a very outspoken punter. It's unlikely that you're ever going to know a punter's name if you're a fan of." You know, football.
Most football, yeah, absolutely. Because unless you're an amazing, like, Hall of Fame kicker, right, Vinatieri, that kind of stuff, you're never going to know most punter kickers' names unless they're on your team.
And so Pat McAfee leaves football to go build a media empire. I think he briefly was at Barstool Midwest or Heartland or whatever.
This guy not only leaves football in 2016, he leaves football when he could still be paid playing football. There were people on national television, ESPN or whatever, literally looking into the camera going, somebody in Pat McAfee's family tell him to put his helmet back on and get back out there because the Indianapolis Colts still want to pay him millions of dollars to punt the football.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't know anything about football, but I'm going to guess traumatic brain injury is not that much a part of being a kicker, is it?
No, I mean, you go out there, you punt the ball, you come to the sideline, right? Like, I mean, he was literally, and again, I am a big Pat McAfee fan. I listen to his weekly Pat McAfee show, so I've heard his stories a lot about him playing and that kind of stuff. He's very open about the fact that he had a coach one time tell him because he tried to make a tackle and kind of got hurt a little bit or limped or whatever, and his coach grabbed him by the helmet and said, your job is to kick the ball and get off the field. Because if you get hurt, I've got nobody else to kick the ball, right? Kick the ball, get off the field. There are 10 other guys out there I'm paying to tackle someone, right?
Right, yeah.
So kick the ball, get off the field. But look, I get very excited about stories like this because this is kind of the path that obviously Danny and I with Market Explainer are on. This guy left football, left a paycheck that he knows was coming, not just a paycheck, millions of dollars.
Yeah, so little different than our business. He left millions of dollars behind. I left tens of dollars behind to do this.
I can definitely be doing other things. My point is not that he left millions of dollars. The point is he left to do something he believed in. He was actually one of the, at the time, NFL, it's when they banned NFL players from tweeting before games because it became a problem. This was kind of the social media taking over, and he, in his brain, thought social media is the future. I can't play football forever, but social media is the future.
So what the story really here is that he signed a deal with FanDuel to be a sponsor of his show that is estimated value. Nobody knows for sure, private deal here, but $30 million. So a 4-year contract.
A year. So it's a 3-year contract. It's a 4-year deal with the last year being an optional deal from FanDuel, right? So it's really a 3-year, $90 million contract
That's Joe Rogan money, baby.
That's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
So and guess what? This is a deal that he got by building a show from scratch.
Yes.
That he goes out, he leaves football, he joins. Nobody wanted to. He tells a story all the time. Nobody wanted to hire him initially being a punter. He wanted to go out into the social media world, but he tried doing it the traditional route. What does most NFLers do? They get done playing football, they go to Monday Night Football, and they're an announcer. They're whatever. He tried a little bit of that. Nobody wanted to hire him. Barstool Sports said, hey, come over here. We'll show you the internet. We'll teach you the internet.
Right.
Right? And we'll give you a show. He goes over there 6 months later. He's very grateful for working with Barstool, but not a big fan of how they were working, how they were working out. Wanted to do his own thing. So he did. He broke out. He's done a lot of other stuff as well. He's been on some of those sideline football shows.
Yep.
He was this is a guy that
he's on Monday Night Raw, right? Which is WWE.
Friday night. He was on Raw, but now he's on Friday Night SmackDown. He's one of the announcers on Friday. The point is why does he do
WWE,
that? He was a kid that loved wrestling. Yeah. So he went out when he was building this show, the Pat McAfee show, he went out and said, hey, I'm a large man. He's a large man for a punter. He's like, I want to get into wrestling. So he started doing this live show where they would watch wrestling, recording on YouTube live, watching wrestling on Monday Night Raw, watching it and just commentating from his living room with his buddies.
Right.
And it started to grow an audience to the point that WWE reached out to him.
And hired him. Yeah, which is amazing.
You know what I mean? So here's a guy that went out there and then he got a radio show, because that's what you do, right? You get a radio show. And then...
Did he actually have a radio show? I thought he was just...
So after he left Barstool... So this is kind of the timeline. He went to Barstool to learn that. After he left Barstool, he came out, and at Barstool had him on a couple of different shows. They had him create a radio show that was called Midwest Radio. Let me find it. Let me see. I apologize. Because I got out of my timeline here. Okay, so Heartland Radio. So Barstool got him on the radio. But again, that's part of the why he left. He did not want to be restricted by the FCC.
Yeah, of course.
He wanted to be able to cuss. He wanted to be able to talk to. He didn't want anybody telling him who to talk to, how to talk to him, how long to talk to him, what to say, or whatever. So he leaves Barstool Sports in 2018, creates his own company, Pat McAfee Incorporated, which it consists of the Pat McAfee Show. That's Hockey Talk, Heartland Radio, what he's tried to do 2.0, and Good, Better, Bets. These are all things that he was passionate about. The wrestling thing came about. He loved wrestling as a kid.
Right.
So he started doing that. Gambling. He's a big gambler. He likes gambling. So what did he do? He created a gambling talk show on podcast, right?
Right.
And then the Heartland Radio kind of died. Hockey Talk still exists. Of course, the Pat McAfee Show, what it is now. Right. And Good, Better, Bets became what they call Hammer Down now, DAHN. Good Yinzer, Pittsburgh, Hammer Down, right, is what they call their gambling podcast.
I wouldn't know.
So you have a guy with that's built out three major brands, the Pat McAfee Show, the Hockey Talk, and Hammer Down, his betting show, all created passions from Pat McAfee and his group of buddies. His group of buddies, what he calls the boys.
Yeah.
One of them, CFO Phil, they've been together since second grade.
Yeah.
CFO Phil was a smart kid in class. Pat McAfee was the idiot, dumb kid that, but everybody liked because he was loud and obnoxious, right? Tone Diggs played Pee-wee football with, right? Tone Diggs played Pee-wee football with. Nick Moraldo, the head of the Hockey Talk, again, guy went to school with his whole life, lived down the street. They played together. When they talk about his boy, he's got a couple of guys that he's brought in, Boston Connor, whatever.
Yeah, and I know all these guys, obviously, because I went to school with all of them.
But most of these guys are just guys that he went to school with, that when he left the NFL, he said, hey, and he talks about it when he signed this contract, that, hey, quit your job, come work with me.
Yeah.
Move to Indianapolis, which is where he last played, Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, which I just want to point out. Here's a guy who had a small audience as a punter, decides to build not in Austin, not in L.A., just Indianapolis, Indiana. Just a weird place to build an empire,
Well,
right?
him and his wife were there, right?
Yeah, we're
He
here now, so then
and
why
that's
bother
where
going
we want to
somewhere else?
be, right?
Yeah,
Again, he loves the Colts. He loves the owner of the Colts. They have a great relationship. Now, I want to make this clear. This guy had millions of dollars from playing in the NFL to start, too.
yeah. So he had the money to
He
do
had the
this.
money to pull a couple of guys, his old buddies, down and start a show with, right? And upfront the cost of setting up a studio, and upfront the cost of marketing, and he'll tell you
Right.
they lost a lot of money up
Of
front
course.
because of the what they were trying to do. I mean, they at one
Yeah.
point when he was doing the wrestling announcing, they rented a box truck and made it a mobile studio so
Right.
that they could continue doing the daily show
Right.
while
Right.
he
Right.
was
Yeah.
traveling back and forth to Florida or
Yeah.
whatever
Wherever
it
he was.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And right before Zoom was really huge and before this kind of stuff, right? And then you have once he starts that AJ Hawk, the a Green Bay Packer, also a NFL first
Right.
rounder, right?
Right.
Joins the show as kind of the co-host.
Yeah.
AJ Hawk, completely different personality, jawline for days,
Right. Right.
very dry sense of humor. Where Pat McAfee's very loud,
Yeah.
very
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy, weed smoker.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Whatever. AJ Hawk's very, oh yeah, guys, like very
Yeah.
concerned.
Yeah.
So they offset each other very well,
Right.
and he brings that previous NFL, right? Not only
Yeah.
previous NFL Super Bowl winner, he won a
Yeah.
Heisman in college. Most quarterback or he played
Kickers.
linebacker. Most
Okay.
tackles for in Green Bay history. So he brings some in the world of sports. Here's a guy that knows
Right.
what he's talking about,
Yeah.
right?
So he brings
Um,
on a knowledgeable co-host that
right.
really understands the subject. But here's what I think is the part that I find fascinating to me. Here's people making a living talking about people playing a game.
Yeah.
They make a living talking about people playing a game. And to me, it is fascinating that that's how the market operates. That in not only can you make money, not just regular Joe Schmo at a cubicle money, you're making millions of dollars to kick an oblong shaped piece of leather through a piece of metal that looks like this, and they're going to give you millions of dollars to do it. And when you're done, you can talk about the people playing a game, and they'll just give you $30 million a year.
One of the things that I really appreciate, and one of the things I think the reason I was drawn to Pat McAfee is because he talks about it in that way. Like you'll see a Troy Aikman on TV, or you'll see a Joe Montana or whatever, and they're very okay. I was a quarterback in the NFL. I deserve my millions of dollars. I'm an elite, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
athlete,
yeah, yeah.
whatever. And there's just and again, I have nothing problem with Troy Aikman, big
No.
fan, Joe Montana, whatever. But there's a certain swag to them. There's an arrogance to them. Tom Brady's the
Okay.
same way, Peyton Manning, whatever.
Okay.
Where Pat McAfee is like, this is absurd.
Yeah.
It's absurd that someone may have paid me millions of dollars to kick football 5 times
But
during a game.
yeah, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. Like, what do you know?
Right, and
But
but he's like that too. But he acknowledges the absurdity,
right.
right?
I just I just love that this is a thing, and I love seeing people break away from the expected thing that they're supposed to do, which is to, go quietly into the night with traumatic brain injury and not be able to be normal for the rest of your life. And instead, he goes, "I'm going to leave while I'm on top. I'm going to build an internet business about talking about football and be a personality." And he did it, and that's beautiful.
Andy has people along the way, and he likes to talk about these people.
Yeah,
He's
he brought
developed
his
this.
buddies with him.
He's developed this. I don't want to say persona, but this person that
Yeah.
if you're a business person out there and you call up Pat McAfee and you offer him a deal, he's
Yeah.
going to talk about it on his show, good, bad, or otherwise. So
That's
he
right.
flat out talks about on his show
He-
that this
he-
jackwagon called me up and
Yeah.
offered me, said I should come punt for the XFL. Like this happened within the last year. Somebody
why-
called him up
well-
and said, "Hey, this would be an opportunity for you." And he's like, "No." He's like, "If you think that's an opportunity, you need to go back and figure out what the hell you're talking about."
Yeah, and I mean XFL is now owned by my friend Dwayne.
I'm just saying, it would not
Johnson.
be if you knew what he was doing.
Why would you even
Why
say that?
would you
Yeah.
even say that? That's and when he says it all the time. He's like people come up to me with advice all the time. He's like
Right.
people do. He's like, but consider the source. He's like,
Yeah.
if you're, I've always had that opinion. He's like, if you are less successful than I am,
I know
why
he
would I
came to
believe a
hear from
word
you.
that you say?
Yeah. So this is, of course, kind of rounding out what we have to say about this. This is our love letter to Pat McAfee saying, "Hey, we
Mm-hmm.
would love to join your network. We're going to bring something very different to the Pat McAfee show and the Pat McAfee
Absolutely,
Inc."
I would 100% join
Yeah,
Pat McAfee Incorporated
I
as his
tried to.
market explainer
Yeah, Pat
business.
McAfee's. Yeah, so we're going to be the business show on his network. We're interested. We're here. We're ready.
Yeah, he's definitely done that. And not only did he take, Danny said 30 million, but he took 30 million a year. He's taking
Mm,
30 million
mm,
dollars for
mm.
FanDuel, and FanDuel did not purchase his show.
Yeah, I know.
FanDuel did not purchase, like Spotify. Joe Rogan had to move from YouTube to Spotify.
Yeah,
Pat McAfee, not moving anywhere.
yeah. It's a sponsorship
It's
agreement.
just a sponsorship agreement where they
Yeah,
bought the rights to be his exclusive. And we
right.
all know what gambling's coming down. You and I have talked about it on the show about
Plenty of times.
gambling is coming down. It's now in 26 states and it's
Yeah,
growing. Online sports books, gambling
yeah.
on the NFL,
No, I
whatever.
think it's 30 states now.
But that's my point. Is it's growing
Yeah,
like crazy. FanDuel wants to be a big part of that, so they
right.
purchased his exclusive. They're his exclusive book, and you talk about things we want to get into about being part of
Yeah,
the Pat McAfee, conglomerate of podcasts.
yeah.
They've also purchased the naming rights to what is his new studio. So
Oh,
he's
okay.
moving to the FanDuel Igloo is the name of his new
Okay.
studio and building that they're moving into soon
Right.
in 2022. So he sold the naming rights.
Which, okay, great.
Great.
It's like a
So
stadium selling their naming rights. Yeah.
I'm also putting out there into the universe that if you want to be the official name of the studios that you and I are building out,
That's
we're also
correct.
looking for a main sponsor for the, naming of
Actually,
that studio.
if we don't get somebody else, one of my companies is going to be the main sponsor. It's going to be dumpbetter.com.
And we're not selling our naming rights to Danny because Danny would name it like dump.com or whatever. And we can't have that. So
Yeah,
we
it's a
definitely
website that
need,
I'm developing right now. So, yep.
yeah, for our podcasting studios here in Austin, Texas, we're going to definitely sell those naming rights. So just reach out to us for that at
Oh yeah.
bigmarketexplainer.com, and we'll be there for that as well. So what do we got next, Danny?